Hey friends, have you been watching Wicked Tuna and saying to yourself, do they really make that much money? Well, in this video, we've just finished the 2024 bluefin fishing season, and we are going to break down all the costs, like all of them, what we got paid, and by the end of this, you're probably going to have a very different perspective on what a bluefin fisherman actually makes. All right, Professor, so where should we start with this? Because there's so many different numbers that make an impact on the season. Of course, when we say this 2024 season, we're referring to the what specifically?
January through March quota that's allotted.
Right, January through March, and this year, it didn't last very long. So tell us about how many days we fished and how long the season actually lasted.
All right, so just to put it in perspective a little bit, last year our season was almost 48 days long. So, roughly a month and a half, a little bit more than that. But this year our season's only 26 days. And it really...
Massive difference.
Yeah.
So we lost, almost 45%. I mean, it was like we lost a ton of the season as compared to last year, and that's a variety of reasons. If you had to say the biggest reason why you think that was?
Well, I think the number one reason is because the mass of fish were so spread out. At one point there, they were catching them from up there off of New Jersey all the way down to Morehead City. You know what I mean? So it is crazy.
So we fished a total of 14 days, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So and so if somebody's watching and say, well, okay, you had a 28-day season, or 26-day season, you only fished 14 days. Why is that?
Well, weather. You got to realize we're fishing in January. It's cold, it's blowing, you know what I mean? And not to mention the wind blows out of the east and the northeast a lot, and we have to go through the inlet, which makes it treacherous.
Yeah, Oregon Inlet, I'm sure you've probably seen on that before, so very treacherous. All right, so we had 14 total days of fishing. We caught how many fish?
We sold 8 fish.
All right, so we sold 8 fish this year. So that means there was definitely days where we did not catch, right?
For sure.
And that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's break down some of the numbers. What numbers can you share with us that are going to help the viewer here understand because we're going to, by the end of this, you're going to see exactly what we made, and I think it's probably going to surprise you.
Yeah, so out of those 8 fish, they ranged anywhere from 177 pounds to 530 pounds.
So that's like the 177 was how long? Probably just above the 73-inch cut?
Yeah, barely legal, maybe like 75, 76 inches.
A BLT?
Yeah, BLT is what we call them.
Barely legal tuna right there. Okay, and so and sometimes beggars can't be choosers. You just got to...
And that's another, brain racker about this, because if you catch a tuna that's legal, yeah, you want to catch a bigger one that weighs more, but a bird in hand is better than 2 in the bush.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. You throw one back and all of a sudden you get skunked the rest of the day because the bite turns off.
Yeah.
That's a brutal blow. Okay, so from 177 to 530 pounds, that 530 was 108 inches, right? So that gives you a perspective on the difference on the sizes. Okay, now the price per pound. When you're watching Wicked Tuna, you're hearing averages usually around that $19 to $21 a pound.
Yeah, that's just insane to me. I don't even know where that comes from.
It's not true whatsoever. And I've gotten to the point where when people say to me, is Wicked Tuna pricing accurate? I would say divide it by 3, and that's probably the number.
That's right.
That the commercial fishermen got paid. Has there been exceptions to that at times? Yes. But, I can't see it being any greater than half of what they're showing on the show, especially over the last few years of watching and us going through it and watching the show at the same time. I can tell it's not accurate. So drum roll, please. Our average price per pound.
$5.80.
Holy smokes, how did we get to $5.80? Because that's incredibly low.
Yeah, and we had a couple fish, where we only got $4 a pound for, but this year it seemed to matter. We had to take extreme caution in caring for our fish. and making sure that they didn't burn. We cooled them properly and stuff like that. And during the fight, they produce a lot of heat, and if you don't cool them down properly and use the proper techniques, the meat just burns, is what they call it. Cooks itself because of the temperature.
Yeah. We had to watch that, and so we were consistently seeing those ranges that were, in that $6-7, whatnot. All right, and then we've got some other expenses and costs, just in general numbers to share. So let's keep going on that. What else can you tell us?
So it cost us $675 per day to go fishing, which this year was, fuel prices were a little bit lower, and that expense was a little bit lower. But out of those 14 days, over an average, that's what it cost us.
One of the benefits we have is we have a boat that is more economical from a fuel perspective. And so, not including what the generator burns, she gets close to 1 mile per gallon of diesel fuel. A lot of these sport fishers that are going out there are getting half that.
Yeah.
And so we do have that as an advantage, but then again, that hurts us on the rougher days. It has its own set of drawbacks as well.
Yeah, and plus when we're commercial fishing, I have a tendency to go a lot slower to try to conserve fuel. Every dollar counts when you're trying to make a living doing this. So you have to think about all those things, even though you want to get to the fish as fast as you can, but you're like, well, I really shouldn't give her that extra 100 because that's going to cost us another $50. You know what I mean?
That's right. Okay, so we average $675 per day in expenses. Keep going.
So overall in Bluefin sales, we had $13,759 in those 8 fish. So that's what we got for all 8 of those fish. And like I say, at an average, it was $5.80 a pound. But we also had some bycatch, like yellowfin tunas, blackfin tunas that we also sold. And there was one day where that almost paid for our fuel. You know what I mean? We caught some yellowfin tunas, some nice ones, and that helped us out a lot on our fuel bill that day. And so every little dollar matters. So that brought our total to $14,334 in total fish sales.
Okay.
All right. So with that being said, we had $93.50 in expenses: fuel, bait, ice, all that stuff. So you do the math, it's not a lot of money.
How much is left?
Not a lot, just a touch under $5,000.
For how many people?
4.
And how does this work?
Well, it's 3 of us that are on here fishing, but we also try to get the boat a share, so it's divided 4 ways.
Yeah, and so you're dividing what is essentially $5,000 by 4 shares, which means what's left for each person is just under $1,250.
Yeah, for a month's worth of work. 26 days.
26 days. And if you figure, we're doing some quick math here, the total number of hours, and so you spend how many days on the water again?
14.
Average day is what? How many hours?
It all depends on, but it's no shorter than 12.
Okay, no shorter than 12.
Yeah, I take that back. There were a couple days when we went out there, we landed right on the fish,
Okay.
we hooked one and came right back.
So let's call it 170 hours of minimum per person of work time. So for 170 hours, what they ended up getting paid was $1,250.
Yeah. And the 14 days fishing is just the days that we were away from this dock. And keep in mind, there's a lot of other work that has to be done. If you hook a fish, you have to check the leader, respool, there's all kinds of work that has to be done to go along with that. That's just not fishing.
Bottom line is they were getting paid less than $10 an hour.
Correct.
Less than minimum wage, probably.
Yeah.
Now, we're not saying this as victims.
No.
Like, we're sharing this because nobody shares this information.
Right.
And you might be saying, man, those Wicked Tuna guys are making a killing. I'm sure some years, you can turn a profit doing this. You can, but it's very, very hard. And this is one of those things where it's more for just the pure love of it,
It is.
than it is for the profit of it, because it's incredibly difficult to turn this into a profitable venture.
Yeah, especially with the short season this year, I feel like the fishing really doesn't get good until February.
Yeah.
So we were just getting dialed in. The fish were getting ready to show up, in masses, and then all of a sudden it got shut down. So especially this year, it's very hard to turn a profit.
Very hard to turn a profit, and hopefully you now know, wow, it's not what I see on TV. We do love what we do, and of course that's one of the reasons why we have this channel, because we recognize that if we can continue to build the brand through those experiences, well then we won't have to rely on a price per pound to feed our families.
Correct.
And we can make this a bigger, more profitable operation, and you being a part of the community helps to make that possible, and we certainly appreciate that. But bottom line is, for what was again 16, how many days of fishing?
14
days of fishing, $5,000 in sales. Tough year it was 2024 here in North Carolina. Some did better than us, some did worse than us. We learned a lot. You were there for the journey. I mean, we've got those videos out there, so make sure you check them out. But come join us this summer on a charter. Come for those big yellowfins, those big eyes, those mahi, the billfish. It's going to be a great year.
And even next January, we will offer to ride along for bluefin.
Really great point. You can ride along with us next year. So if you want to ride along, let us know. And we always have a fun time on the boat and grill up some burgers and just laugh a lot. And we still have a great experience no matter what happens. So again, we appreciate you. It was a great year, a learning year. And until the next time, everyone, stay salty.